Ready? Ready?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Gershon Dublon.
Hi, I'm Xin Liu.
And we are together a studio called Slow Immediate, based here in Brooklyn, New York.
Yes.
Slow Immediate, just to introduce you to our studio, Slow Immediate is the two of us coming together kind of at the intersection of the two practices in a way to make a third thing. What?
What's the third thing?
I don't know. It's a Venn diagram. Okay, Slow Immediate is a Venn diagram of some of your thoughts and some of my thoughts. We met at MIT where we were doing grad school, and we were both really interested in the sensory and kind of this idea of immediacy, which is really about being present or being sensitive. Xin had been really focused on immediacy to self, and I had been thinking about like the sensory augmentation concept, so like immediacy to the environment, what's around you.
Supposedly, this August, we were supposed to be in Linz right now for our residency with Ars Electronica Artificial Intelligence Lab, and that's not happening. We're in Brooklyn.
Yeah, we've been here in our apartment pretty much locked in since March. We landed in the middle of March from a work trip and haven't left since then. And you know, things around the world are opening up in different ways, but here there's still really, in the US broadly, there's really a sense of like, we're still in the middle of this. So what have you been doing while working from home? How has your work changed?
A lot of it. My background is in mechanical engineering, so my true interest is always working with machines and building physical objects. But in a one-bedroom apartment in New York, you cannot do that much. So I've been migrating slowly into a digital media realm genre in the past 3 months. It has been pretty fascinating. One of the projects I made is called Sleepwalk. It's a solitary adventure game in which you found yourself confined in an apartment in New York City during quarantine. And through that game, you can kind of share my experience as being in this very isolated space, and slowly the perception of the room start to change and it become a dream.
Yeah, and for me, kind of similarly, so my background's in electrical engineering, and in the past really had been connected to acoustic ecology and field recording and sound experiences in the world out there. And so another one of the projects we were working on, we called Living Sounds, actually takes a bunch of the work from before, which was this system of recording this wetland restoration site where we had a lot of microphones, and puts it online, people to connect to and listen to 24 hours a day. So it's just 24/7 live mix of many, many microphones in this wetland. In addition to being this live stream of a wetland, Living Sounds is also a radio station, which means that artists and guests, people doing readings, can log in and present live in a way that gets mixed together with this mixed wetland sound.
Yeah, we even had a meditation in the swamp at the end of the night, so it was nice to feel like every one of the audiences who connected to the website was able to have this very embodied experience with us.
So, in this video, we wanted to take you on 2 different journeys that we've been on in this self-isolation time. One of them is not too far from where we're sitting right here. It's just like up to the roof of our building. You are in our beautiful backyard right now. And the other journey is to the coast of Brooklyn. We've been doing some field recording and other types of shooting over on the beach and the surrounding area.
So on the rooftop, what we will be doing is to chase some satellites. At the beginning of the quarantine, we find ourselves so confined and disconnected from the world. There is kind of this interesting twist that we realized we could, on the other hand, connect it to satellites, which is also looking at ourselves as they passing by.
There are these satellites made by NOAA, which aren't really too much in use right now, but there are 3 of them that are surviving, and they circle the planet pretty often, pretty fast, and they're taking these black and white scans, like infrared scans of the clouds and the surface of the Earth. You can actually download these almost like analog TV in their own format. Download them as they pass over using a homemade antenna and a really cheap thing called a software-defined radio, little USB dongle.
Whoa!
It's really good signal.
I know. It's a beautiful experience because we are connected to the world through internet. However, we are also losing the sensitivity of the distance we're having while each family home is isolated in this difficult time. So having a satellite passing by was a kind of reassurance on that. We even did the experiment with a team in Shanghai, in China. As the night goes, the satellite first passed through New York, and we received some signals from them, and we literally tracked the satellite as they passed across Arctic and arrived in China, Shanghai, in about 20 minutes. And our friends over there was able to track the exact satellite and hear their voices from the sky. And later, after New York reopens a little bit, we were able and dared to go to the Reese Beach near New York City.
Actually, we first went there as a continuation of our satellite project.
That's true.
Yeah. We were just trying to actually have an open sky.
And it was wild. Oh my god.
We ended up on the beach with our homemade antenna made of a broomstick with 2 coat hangers sticking out of it in a lightning storm.
I know, why did I do that?
Yeah, don't
do that.
Don't do that. Don't do what we did. But it was okay. Nobody got struck by lightning. But then, actually, we went back to the same place a few more times and have been field recording there.
The big thing you're gonna see is a parabolic microphone, if I'll say that. It can make you hear really, really far. And the other one are these tiny little microphones Gershon made himself and with his previous collaborators, that are tiny microphones are distributed in the landscape.
Yeah, but in a way they both let you put your ears out there, which is a kind of recording that I'm really interested in, and I found the more I go out and record, the more I'm interested in this very granular way of investigating a sonic landscape. Probably will fail. Nope, I got it. And when I close my eyes, all of a sudden I hear, I have a kind of sharp focus, a way of hearing all of the little details of the sounds around me. I really hear space differently when my eyes are closed, and that's what I wanted to capture in the way I recorded. With the parabolic microphone, you're kind of doing that too in a way. You're pointing at a tree in the wind, and you're hearing the individual leaves touching each other, and that feels like that same kind of sound. In fact, a year ago, around this time, I was in Buenos Aires, Argentina, which was the first part of this European AI Lab Ars residency that we were both supposed to be at.
However, I couldn't make it due to visa issues.
Yeah. And so I found myself there and trying to ground myself and discover what this project would be from a conceptual stage into something more like a practice there. And I brought some microphones, some homemade microphones and some others, and I was walking around the city and recording. And I started to follow these different lines in a way, just to keep myself moving through the city. One of them in particular was I got interested in this Argentine sculptor, Lola Mora, and her work kind of throughout the city, and this idea of her as having died in somewhat obscurity and her work being removed. She was controversial because she was a woman making sensual sculptures in the early 20th century. But she was also an inventor, and her inventions were really cool and interesting, and she had patents, and I was just kind of curious.
Engineer.
Yeah, an engineer and sculptor, very neoclassical. It was a story that I was interested in. And so I walked around the city with my microphones in my backpack, and I found myself eventually in the cemetery in Buenos Aires, Chacarita Cemetery, which is this gigantic cemetery full of tombs. And I was looking for her grave, which I had been told was there. And through a long series of searches, I eventually ended up in the archives, and I discovered she'd been moved. So she wasn't there anymore, she was in another part of the country.
Yeah. So that experience of searching for someone and trying to have this archive of sound of your search and intertwine with a person's life story was also inspiration for the final piece of The Wandering Mind this year. First of all, Wandering Mind itself is these processes. We are tapping into the sensor network and field recordings of global data and in our dreams. And that is a kind of interesting work of that consciousness and being able to connect but also wander in this scale that is a little bit harder to understand as a person, however more capable while we are unleashing our subconscious power, I think. Do you want to tell people more about how the Wandering Mind works?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of relates to unleashing our subconscious power in a way, in a deeper way too, and we're unleashing an AI also, which is a kind of a subconscious power.
That's true.
Onto a database of field recordings that we found online called Radio Apery, which is a really wonderful website. You can explore the world through user-contributed field recordings. we've been feeding an AI this database, these collections of sound, and the AI is trained to do something called representation learning, which means that it's taking little snippets, like 1 or 10-second bits of sound, and organizing them in its own mental model of what is alike to what. In the end, what you get is this space. It's not really a human perceptible space. It's an AI.
It's a high dimension latent space that we are projecting them to a 2D space in order for us to at least see what's going on. But it's actually a high dimensional space we can never really get into until we are making some progress in physics, I think.
Yeah, or until we're sleeping.
That's
but
true.
More on that. More on that later. But yeah, and so we have this space of sound, and we start to move around in it. And what really feels dreamy in that regard, just in the sonic way, is how, a whale sound and an ambulance are spectrally related. They're really far apart in the world, but they can become one another, and we're really kind of exploring that aspect, that dreamy, trippy aspect of the spectra of this world.
Yeah, basically, if you imagine the sensing system, sensing network, the nerve system of global data are dreaming, can we tap into this dream?
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing. As you're watching this, it's already September, and we will be in our chapel.
Yeah, so we're finally getting out of the city and getting ourselves up 3.5 hours north of the city to a chapel in a town called Troy, where we'll just spend the month and continue doing this work.
Meditating.
Yes. Spend a month meditating. We will do no work. We will do a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But it'll be a different space and a place to think that we have really, really needed. So we're really looking forward to that. And we'll be connecting to you all through Ars from there.
Yeah, we'll be hosting the Wandering Mind as we're in the chapel, so it'll be quite an exciting experience as we share the dreams with you all.